Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode. I am Mona Gadiri here today with you from our Azure Zero to Heroes live stream. I am accompanied by some fantastic speakers today who are going to be talking about coding with a Copilot and give you some insights into what this new age of coding with AI is really like. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce our speakers today.
Thanks so much, Mona. Hello, everyone. Together with Saba and myself, Eddie, I will give an overview about coding with GitHub Copilot in safety critical domains. So, besides all the hype, AI can significantly enhance software development itself. Saba works in the AI Competence Center, which I had, and we are both working in a company called Frequentis, which is one of the world's leading provider of safety critical applications for control centers. So 95% of all air traffic is managed by Frequentis technology, around 4,000 workstations, and therefore operators at police forces like London Metro Police or Bavarian Police are there to save lives and protect property. 30 or even more percent of ships worldwide communicate using our technology, saving about 2 lives per day. And we supply 7 out of 10 large railway networks in Europe. Enough said about Frequentis, but our agenda today is focusing about what the developer challenges are. So we will give some common pain points that are mostly common for software developers. We will meet GitHub Copilot as such, so how it works, covering some core features, capabilities, and what we discovered while introducing the tool into the Frequentis group. We have a short technical dive by Saba, then also understanding the context and responses to the prompt. And we will discover our Copilot journey, so the evaluation setup, give some personal insights from our point of view while introducing GitHub Copilot into our company and the whole group. And of course, last but not least, we will also have a look at the pros and cons plus the best practices. And last but not least, have a look at the future of AI in coding, looking at the trends, maybe also have talks about MCP and how it can be used to connect even more data sources. So beginning with the developer challenges, of course, one main challenge is always to meet your deadlines while achieving the best possible quality. So be more efficient, reducing the boilerplate, reducing context switching, accelerating learning is also one of the challenges that lies ahead of a developer. And of course, that was also something that we wanted to accomplish. But how can you overcome these challenges and accelerate development really? So now it's time to hand over and meet GitHub Copilot in detail. Saba?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm taking over from here to just introduce you to GitHub Copilot, a little bit of introduction and what's happening behind the scene. And of course, as Eddie said, we are going to go through some demos. But what is GitHub Copilot? As I've already, maybe you have heard, is an AI-powered coding assistant that helps you to code faster and with the minimum effort or less effort even. They have developed GitHub with collaboration with OpenAI to integrate these into different or popular IDEs. I have worked with Visual Studio or IntelliJ, and I think every time they are adding to new other IDEs, so they are very developing this more and more, or integrating more into more other IDEs even. And there they are. All of them have some core functionality, and which basically provides real-time coding suggestion when you type in your IDE, and sometimes when you also write comments based on your context and the comments that you write, it generates your entire function that you want. It also provides a chat interface that you can start writing prompts or what the context that you want, and it generates code for you. Or if you have even question about the code, you can also use the chat interface, and then the rest would happen from the GitHub Copilot. There is a new functionality which also already in preview, but it's not right now putting out there. Is the coding agent. It's like an experimental thing, so that's why they are put it in the preview. It's different from the agent mode that GitHub Copilot provides, which was already there. This coding agent is like very work on assigned tasks or more complex tasks, which acts more autonomously and like a task-oriented assistant. This agent will analyze the context, it plan your steps and execute the task. So it's not just a code line by line. It's really a work on different tasks and autonomously handle them as well. Next slide. The other, all of them comes with some key features. All of these IDEs that I mentioned, there might be some differences in sometimes back and forth. One of them may be a little bit faster than the other, so you have to be a little bit patient with them. But all of them has these key features for all of the for developers, and code completion, which suggests lines or the entire function that you type based on the context or a pattern that you have already used in your code base. You have the code generation, which it generates codes based on the comments that you wrote. I already mentioned that. And it also has multi-language support, so it with various programming languages, famously Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, and so on. You can already use for other multiple languages, and it supports them. It writes or suggests unit tests for you if you want to have some tests in there, and it helped to check the functionality and also to improve your code quality as well. And it has code explanation, so if you need to know what happens in the code, it explains the codes for you, some snippets or the full code for you as well, in a language that you would also understand, in a human readable language, and also do some documentation or read the documentation for you. It debugs, so if you need some fixes or you need to also identify the fixes, it would help you in this case, and also improve your quality of code, and also the troubleshooting time would be a very reduced in this case. And at the end, you can see based on some different telemetry checks that they have done in different researchers, that there are a lot of improvements from different developers, from a lot of different developers actually, that 90% says that they had productivity from code completion, code generation as well, 80%, 70% in the test generation. There were so many productivity and impact in their everyday life. The multi-language support 70% and so on. So you can already see that there are a lot of movements, and so many developers are already using these features in a day-to-day life, including myself. And but what actually happens behind the scene when we say GitHub Copilot? So the first thing is the first is you as a developer, you enter a text as a code or a text into your editor. It can be anything, and GitHub Copilot gathers all of the context from your history of the code that you wrote, or the file name and the type that you have in your working directory or other tabs that you have open, and it creates a prompt. It creates a constructed prompt from all of the context that you have provided, and then it shifts everything and brings everything to the LLM. But before it goes directly to the LLM, there's a proxy or a gateway that it would ensure that everything is correct. So there is no toxic language or some requests for not related code or some hacking attempts. And when they have done these checks, it goes to your LLM, and the LLM, which is basically trained on billions of lines of codes and natural language models. In this case, is a transformer architecture. It would suggest or predict the code that it has to be formulated for you. And then at the end, as a user, you would see this code suggestion that's in your IDE that LLM, which GitHub Copilot LLM would create for you. But also before it goes to you, there is also another proxy or gateway for you. So it would test the code, this code that it suggests, to see if there is a bug or some mistakes or security problem in there. It truncates to the response that just contains only the unique identifiers and also filter responses just to match the public code. And at the end, you would see, when you see the result, you can accept or reject this the suggested code, for example, from GitHub Copilot. I'm going to hand over to Eddie. This was what happens in the backend. And
thank you, Sahebeh. So I want to give you an overview about our GitHub journey from a company's perspective, and then also tell you the best practices when it comes to such a rollout. So initially, we started with a 3-month evaluation with a couple of users. So we used 45 handpicked users, not only users that were really enjoying or wanted to be part of the GitHub journey, but also people that were a bit skeptical, also from that perspective, because we wanted to involve people that are not that eager to learn new tools, also to get their impressions how such tools could work or could not work. So first step obviously is choose the right license for your setup, then play around with that, which fits best for you. We also included external partners for our internal hands-on sessions and Q&A sessions that we held within the evaluation group. And before the kickoff, the involved users had to define their own use cases up front. We tried to sort them into groups, in use case groups, because we couldn't have like a final session with all the 45 users presenting their use cases, but we grouped them, and those groups then presented their use cases. And we really tried to look at different ones, even ones that are not that promising, to get an idea, okay, where are the low-hanging fruits and which areas might be not that useful using GitHub Copilot. And then we had a final presentation after the evaluation phase, which led to the final outcome and also the next steps, presenting it on C-level, getting more licenses step by step to have a controlled rollout within the whole group. So that was the whole idea, and it, to be honest, worked out quite well with that setup. So looking at the collected use cases, so we got all the different ideas and we tried to group them into 6 different groups. So first one was looking at code quality improvement. What we mean by that is really writing quality code, fixing things, refactoring code for better structure, security, and so on. Another area was documentation as such, so creating clear comments, improving the documentation, also the check-in of code, and so on. Then the infrastructure management was the third use case that we looked at, writing and improving Helm, Ansible, Kubernetes manifest, for example, as well as assisting in creating Bash or Python scripts. Then a very large area we looked at was software development as such. We did have a very large group focusing on Java, but we also had groups with C++, Rust, even C, and also we tried a use case focusing on very unfamiliar languages like Smalltalk, and even there the results were at least not as bad as expected. Testing and evaluation was the 5th use case. We focused on writing unit tests, component tests, improving existing ones. Of course, this one was one of the use cases where we had a lot of promises in the beginning, and all the other use cases where we couldn't find a home for, we fitted into the specific use cases. So we had data analytics parts with Python and other small projects that really looked into the integration of how we can use GitHub Copilot for development. I said it in the beginning, choose the right plan is essential. So there are versions available for single users, the free version, which gives you a limited access, the Pro and Pro Plus versions with more access. But from a business perspective, of course, you would look first at the Copilot Business or Copilot Enterprise solution. First one includes already coding agents and decentralized management, so that your IT can manage the policy control for all your members. And then on enterprise level, you get the knowledge bases, which can, based on your code that you provide, even further enhance Copilot Copilot, and it also adds enterprise-grade capabilities, meaning you get more license and so on available, more seats with those licenses. GitHub is more or less now a marketplace for AI models, and that's also something you should look at upfront. So deciding, okay, which models are available. Your IT setting shouldn't look like this, because this was the first when we discovered, okay, why there are no other models available via GitHub Copilot, because from the IT administrator, they forgot about enabling the various Copilot models. And right now, of course, you get even more models. I took a screenshot yesterday, and now GPT-5 preview is available. Sonnet 4 I'm using already. But choosing the right model is not only essential from a company perspective, but also from a software developer perspective, of course, because some models are faster or cheaper depending on the license you use. But to keep it simple, for simple or fast tasks, you can use smaller or older models, because they're most of the time faster, but also cheaper. But for complex logic or multi-step reasoning issues, you can already use GPT-5 or Claude 4. And for visual multimodal tasks, Gemini or GPT-4 or 5 are useful as well. I have to say, from my point of view, I use most of the time a combination of GPT 4.0 and Sonnet 4, but it really depends on the use cases as well. So that's something you should consider when selecting the models while using it. But things can change quickly. So GitHub announced on the 6th of August, okay, deprecation of GPT 4.0 in Copilot chat. So whoop, your model is gone. Nope, it's back again. So that's the screenshot from yesterday. It seems they decided to go back, or maybe we'll lose it again. We will see. So also keep that in mind, that you cannot really rely, okay, which models are available for how long that actually can be changed on a daily basis, more or less. And now I hand over to Sahebeh to give us a technical dive.
Yes, I am back again. I'm going to just show you very simple technical dive into GitHub Copilot, and after this, we are going to have a very short demo. So I will show you live and in action how you can use GitHub Copilot for your developing tasks. The first one is inline code completions, or as I call it, the ghost text. You can see when you, I'm a Python developer, by the way, so every code that you see, it's in Python. But if you know other one language, you can basically know what's going to happen or what's happening with others as well. So when you define a function, for example, in Python, you already start with def, for example, the first, and then you write a little bit of what this function should do. And you can see at some point when I do the underscore, and the GitHub Copilot suggests what should be for the full function. So I just wrote just a couple of words about the function name. and GitHub Copilot just generated or auto-completed my code, which they call as ghost text. It's a little bit blurry, so it's not accepted. So you have to click on tab to your code to be accepted. And also when you see on the red square, for example, this function takes some parameters or some arguments, 2 arguments in this case, and it also suggests you to other parameters, and then you can alternate between them. So it gives you some other options how you have to handle the function. And in the second example, you can use the same thing, but writing comments. This is another way you can interact with GitHub Copilot. You can use write very descriptive comments and to see what your function should do. And when you're finishing with your comments, in the next line, immediately the GitHub Copilot starts writing the code or suggesting the code for you. In this case, also it's like a ghost text, so it's like blurry. And then when you enter tab or hit the tab button on the keyboard, then your code will be accepted. In the next page, I'm going to show you the agent mode, which I think is one of the most interesting parts of the GitHub Copilot for me as just my personal use. Is you can see I am in the agent mode, and I write the full or a prompt what I want that GitHub Copilot does for me. This is complete multiple tasks or different tasks in one prompt. In this case, I want to create an AI chat agent based on an online PDF. I want to run a local LLM like Olama. I want it to be Mistral, and I want to create a dashboard with a Streamlit using LangChain for frameworks, and also at the end create a full project and also document the project as well. I give this to the agents, and agents will actually, like a teammate for me, starts writing this text and this and also going through all of these tasks for me. It also has used this multi-turn reasoning to handle this task. It means that it uses the history, it uses all of your Active Directory and your whole environment to be able to run these tasks for you. And in the last one, I use in the last example, Eddie, if you enter it. Okay, is the smart action, which it's also very useful. There are some pre-built natural languages prompts, like explain, as in this case, that you can use, and this natural language model will get you in combination with the code context that you give. It brings all of them to the LLM, and it just explain what's happening in your code. For example, it returns again in the English language what happens with your code, and explains your code. And there are other they call it a smart action. You have others like fix, which fix the code for you, or /test, which test or write tests for you, or a doc, which you can use documentation. So they are very, very fast, and you can use these built-in functions and to be able to manage some tasks as well. And you don't have to write a full prompt, for example, to use these things. And if you are ready, I can go to the demo. We are 24 minutes in, so I would try to be as fast as possible. I'm going to take over the sharing. I again don't know why I lost my. Okay, what happened? Just a second. So, everybody see my screen? Do you see my screen, Eddie?
No, I stopped sharing.
Just it takes a little while, maybe.
Still can see it.
I'm going to stop sharing and sharing again. I think, Mona, you have to maybe accept my screen so then everybody can see. I don't know. Something like that.
Can you try to share the other screen, maybe? Put it on there. Otherwise, I will go back to the slides again.
I can share, I don't want to share my screen, but
Okay, if it does not work.
I tried one more time.
Yep, now we can see it.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
So here is my Visual Studio code, and as you can see, I have the GitHub Copilot here. This is the chat interface, and here is the IDE. I have created a project directory, for example, and I can already start. I am gonna just create a file, and first thing I want to do, I just want to do this. I want to create a function that downloads a PDF from a URL, for example. So I say the definition of it. This is a function, how you start the function in Python, and then URL. You can see when I'm still already writing, before finishing my function name, it already suggesting me what should be there and how, and the rest of the code as well. So it's still in a ghost text, as they say. So you can finish it up by starting the tab, and then it would finish it. You can already also starts testing it and running it to see what is happening. This is one way. The way that I like the most is start just writing comment. I just already created the comment. So this is the comment that I have created, for example. That write a function that download the PDF from a URL, write comments in the function, import necessary libraries, test the function with downloading the PDF from this URL. This is a white paper public PDF in Frequentis, for example. And when I hit enter, it starts importing and then starts the rest of the tasks that I gave. So import was importing the library, was the first one that it introduced, it noticed that it should do, and then created the function. Still in the ghost text, it's still not accepted, and when I hit enter, then I will accept the whole thing, and when I finish it, then it would test the function, and then you can finish up. You can save the file already and then starts running it. I would not run it in this way. I would, because I wanted to test show to you the agent mode first, and then test the whole thing if it's run or not. But here it is happening. So the two ways, you already start with the definition of your function, the name of your function, and it does the rest for you, or you can have a very descriptive comments, and then GitHub Copilot does the rest for you. But let's go to the agent mode for now. I would remove this file because I want to do it from scratch. Here is my chat inference. I have different models here. My favorite one is CloudStorm. I always, for now, use this one. It's a very nice model. And I have different modes to choose. I use agents. As we discussed, agents are capable of doing different tasks for you and multiple tasks for you. So they suggested things and only you can approve or reject or something like this, but the agent takes care of the rest of the tasks. This is, for example, a prompt I created. It includes 8 tasks in this case. The same function, the same thing, I just created more, like write a Python function that the name is downloads PDF. that downloads a PDF from a URL. It includes comments, important libraries, test the function, create a README file that explains the project, its purpose, usage, and example, write a unit test to test my function, and run a unit test to verify the function works correctly. I'm in Cloud Sonnet and I am in agent mode. I hit enter, we wait a little bit because it has 8 tasks almost. It understands my working directory is GitHub Copilot demo, which it's a folder that it understands this is my active directory, and it starts to work on my project, the task that I ask. It starts from a first Python file. It creates a Python file. I can go over that, undo or change different things, or I can just keep it. The rest would be a README file that it describes everything, what happens, as I said in the prompt, what I want to do, what is the purpose, how we should do that, and the steps for other developers or for later on. If you want to come back to this project, then you know what happens. I will keep it. It's now, you can see already it's generating different things. So it's right now writing the unit tests for me. Yes, everything is okay. I will just for now keep everything. You can see it wrote a lot of tests, so I can keep it. And when it finishes, it says, okay, I have finished it, but I already installed the requirement and the dependencies. So it already suggests you what will be the next step. You can either cancel or continue in this steps. It wants to install one of the libraries that I requested, or it wrote for me, which is a request library. When I do this, of course, there is an error. It understood that I am in a PowerShell, so it corrects me, and it also goes to the right path that it has to do it. So it, based on the error that it got, it corrected itself in agent, and it suggested a new way of handling the task. And now it says, okay, now you can install the request library. So when it finishes, at any time you can stop the agents, and you already can take over and do the rest, or you let your agents take over and then again do the rest. At any time you can have this control over your environment. This is taking a little bit of time. So it was everything fine. Then it wants to run the unit test, and it ran all of the 7 tests that it created, and everything is fine. So the unit tests are fine, and we are good to go. I think I'm the sharing mode. It's a little bit slow. It says that yes, you successfully passed all of your unit tests, and now let's run the file, the actual file that we created, to see what happens. And you can see already our PDF from the URL has been downloaded, and it has been put here. This is the white paper I wanted, and everything looks very good. At any time, you can go and check the other unit tests or change the codes and so on. You are, as I said, you are in full control, but just the agent makes your life a little bit easier in this case. The last, and then yeah, it says perfect, everything's fine. And it also writes the tasks for you, that what you have done so far, and the projects and key features and so on. So it produces more information if you want to read more on that. The other one I also like very much. I delete everything for now. And I exactly do the same thing that I said in the prompt. I create an empty file called instructions.md, for example, copy paste all of the steps that I already said. I already put it in the agent. I create another chat message, and then I ask to execute the steps that I wrote in the instruction. This is how you can handle your project way easier rather than just using the prompts or a very long prompt, for example. Instructions empty. I will paste it, like execute each steps as I posted in the or pasted it on the instructions. If any steps require creating code, documentation, or test, generate them. Confirm completion of each instruction and a brief summary. If any of these instructions is unclear, ask for clarification before proceeding. And then GitHub Copilot starts the rest again. It creates the download PDF. I should keep it or undo it or reject it, and the next one is the test file, for example, and then it asks me to also, of course, again install the request, which I have already installed it. It knows it already, and it does the rest of the project for you, and it runs the whole project. This way, as I said, instead of writing thousands of lines in a prompt, you can have an MD file or a text file or any kind of file, and it starts writing there what kind of steps you want to do, and then give it to the agent and let the agent do the rest. I would just create the rest because I want to also run the last example. Okay. I will just stop it for now because I don't want to do anything else right now. So I want to just, the last one was this smart action that I told you about. You want to just know what kind of, you want to know, for example, explain what is happening here as an example. You have the control I in my keyboard because I have a Windows keyboard. I don't know what is in other laptops, like in Mac, I have no idea. But for me, it's a control I, and then I can ask Copilot already. I highlight this, and I want to ask, like, explain the code snippet, for example. The snippet that I have highlighted, it says what is happening here. It explains the whole explanation, the whole snippet, suggested things if it has to make better, some improvements if it's needed, and so on and so forth. You can either accept it or not. You can also, as I said, there are other smart actions like edit, doc, fix, generate tests, and other stuff that you can use as a built-in functions that you can already use for your code, and GitHub Copilot does the rest. These were 4 different ways of using GitHub Copilot, either in your IDE as a comment or inline code suggestion, or using the interface and chat interface and in different mode with different models. And I would also always recommend to change between things to see the differences and compare and see what is the best for you. I stop sharing for now because I have 1 slide left. Then Eddie can take over.
Just give me a second. Sure. I will bring up the slides again, and hopefully it switches back to the next slide. Yes, it does. You're good to go, Sahebeh.
No, sorry. And this is the whole different ways I have told you in a very short demo, as you have seen it. This is my day-to-day life in both private and also for work, and they are the lessons that I have learned. This is my journey, basically, that I'm sharing with you. And you can, before Copilot, I was really spending too much time on this boilerplate code or these repetitive tasks. And for me, learning some new frameworks like how to use PyTorch, or for other projects, how to run Olama, or having a whole AI chat agent, for example, created from me locally, it was difficult sometimes. You have to read the documentation and go to the details. So it was a lot of work. And it really helps to navigate and helps you to know from where you have to start, for example. And also debugging and writing tests was often very delayed, or didn't even write them because of time constraints, or the things that I had to do, so I didn't do them on the right time. But when I have started using the Copilot, I had a very strong speed boost. I can say that it 30 to 40% I had improvements in my writing codes, especially for data pre-processings, or and some API scaffolding, for example. It's a learning aid as well. If I want to know about, as I said, explain a code somewhere for me, or fix things for me, I can learn what are the steps, and I can learn what is happening. Also, it guides me through some unfamiliar libraries like Streamlit that I have used recently a lot, or Rust, which it suggests the patterns and so on. Of course, it doesn't always work as would you expected. It creates hallucinations if you are not very well write correct prompts, or basically the whole large language models, we have some limitations. So you have to be careful with what you are, with the limitations of these tools as well. And I created so many projects already. I have created my whole RAG ecosystem, or custom LLM agents with GitHub Copilot, and also very different analytical dashboards with GitHub Copilot. And I can really see that how much faster I am with writing codes. But there are also, of course, some lesson learned. So as I said, write cleaner comments help me to generate better codes. Not help me, but help the GitHub Copilot to generate better codes. And also it responds much better. Use it just for a scaffolding, but also always review the logic critically, because sometimes, of course, when some problems that happens, you have to know where the problems are happening, and you can have a better fix or faster fix as well. And also, if you combine this Copilot with your manual testing and documentation, you would see how much the result gets improved. Actually, that's what I have seen in my journey, how much improvements I got from writing tests to documentation to running the whole code as well. So this was my summary of my journey in this last months with GitHub Copilot. And from this on, I, again, for the last time, handing over to Eddie so he can continue with the rest.
Thank you, Sahebeh, for your insights. Really nice journey. I will try at the end to summarize our pros and cons from the whole evaluation that we had internally. And at the end of the evaluation phase, the grouped use cases then presented their pros and cons, and we tried to summarize them. So when it comes to efficiency and productivity, and that was one of the aspects where we had a really focus on, it was significant in the sense that every participant of the evaluation team, they were talking about significant reduction in work time across all the different use cases, even the ones where we didn't expect it, to be honest. So the acceleration of the development for auto-completion, even though for auto-completion the model are not that quite strong or new, than you would actually get with the chat that you have seen in the demo from Sahebeh. But again, it is also helpful, especially when you are the expert and you are the pilot that is using the Copilot. But supporting diverse tasks, we also had a look at that, writing or refactoring Java code unit tests and documentation. Also looking at more or less assistance tasks, providing explanations, getting up to speed with new technologies. Also, Sahebeh mentioned some of those points in her journey, and yeah, identification of bugs, suggesting fix when it comes to logs and context. That's something that is really, or is really helpful when it comes to GitHub Copilot. Especially documentation and testing. It has a really strong support for comment-driven development and test generation, enable creation of readable documentation and design artifacts. This is really something that yeah, enables the developers to do things that are more monotone or are not things that they typically want to do. And of course, cross-context awareness, so the ability to correlate front-end, back-end, and configuration files to ensure consistency is one of the pros as well. But not everything is sunshine, so there are a lot of concerns and issues when it comes to GitHub Copilot. For example, in the beginning, and I start with performance issue first, we had a lot of problems with different versions of the integrations in the IDEs when it comes to the performance of various models. Sometimes it stalled completely. It freezes during periods of high usage. Most of those issues have gone, but from time to time they appear, especially when new models are introduced. Also, an issue is that when you often prompt iterations were needed to achieve usable results, so you not the first prompt will give you the expected outcome. Might be also some issue when it comes to prompting as such, but also we discovered that this is really a dependency that is depending on the integration that each different version of the IDE then has. When it comes to reliability and accuracy, the generated code often required careful review and correction, but again, it means that you are the expert, and as a senior software developer, it makes sense yeah, to look at it, especially when it comes to hallucination of the code that looked plausible but still was incorrect, is one of the common issues here. Of course, the results, and I mentioned that before, of auto-completion are not on the same level as the chat models. Yeah, without sufficient context, the results are at least suboptimal. Larger code bases are also kind of a challenge. This might change over time, but right now still is one of the bigger problems. Also, the differences between the large language models themselves. So new models arrive, older models go. Maybe you have already set up a workflow that worked with the old one. Now they don't exist. That might be an issue if older ones just disappear. The agent model also was confusing because it was introduced at the time when we started rolling it out, and that also led to disrupt working scripts and so on. And last but not least, the licensing issue. So it depends which setup you prefer, but of course, if you want the full functionality, including your prompt code base, there's no way around the enterprise licensing. And after that, I want to have a look at the best practices, because in the end, the outcome was still astonishing. I have listed the cons, but the pros, they were on the larger side. But to make GitHub Copilot a success in your company, you have to provide a complete or precise prompt with the documented context from the start. Really think about describing tasks clearly, use empty files, include relevant files to improve output quality. You have seen that in our short demo as well. Always double check generated code, especially tests, refactorings, and so on. Validate the suggestions from the agent mood thoroughly before applying. Choose your IDEs plugins carefully, and I'm not kidding. Some teams are really now thinking about moving on to other IDEs instead of the old ones they were using, because some of the integrations for some IDs still lack the functionality compared to Visual Code Studio, for example, or Visual Code. Be aware of performance differences across those IDs. I already mentioned that. Keep the documentation close to the source and use text formats for clarity. It's also very essential to use Copilot to bootstrap the documentation, but refine manually for accuracy. And of course, treat the Copilot as it is, because it's your Copilot. You are the pilot. You are in charge, and not a replacement for expertise. So the Copilot is there to help you, but the knowledge still comes from your side. So this is something really to remember when also rolling it out group-wide. Last but not least, a short look at the future before we will answer some questions if you have any. So of course, the evaluation of AI coding assistants will grow, new models will arise, the integration of new data sources, of course, will also help to get more knowledge into your models. Things like the model context protocol will also bring some change over the next months. And of course, also the role of a developer as such, especially looking at the senior ones, will change, because when the tools become more autonomous and the human AI collaboration grows, those roles will change. But of course, don't be scared, because just get to use with the tools that are available, know and really be open about the things that are available already, and use them in a secure and careful manner, and then you should be fine to still work in your role, maybe in a different way, but still as a developer. And of course, last but not least, autonomous coding agents that focus on things that really nobody wants to do, looking at, I don't know, running the test cases automatically while you still work on the code and so on, is something that is really useful and will keep on growing over the time. And maybe also a short hint, we collected a couple of useful resources, and I really recommend the GitHub changelog, because there you see, okay, what is published and available right now. It gives you a great overview about new functionalities and what is possible, what not, but also have a look at Microsoft Learn, O'Reilly, and of course, all the GitHub pages that GitHub provides in regards to Copilot. And that was it from our side. Thank you, Sahebeh.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. Yeah,
and now we would have time for some questions.
If there is any. Mona, if you are speaking, you are on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was muted this whole time. Thank you guys so much for a fantastic presentation. Really grateful for all of your time and attention. And does anybody have any questions? I see one. How secure is my code if I'm using Copilot? Is it stored somewhere outside of my organization or still within the bounds of my own organization? Oh, you can't hear me?
We can see and hear you.
You can't see or hear me. Really?
But I think we can look at the comments if there are any.
Can you see me? You hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Yes, there is one comment in the chat around how secure is your code if you're using Copilot, and is it stored somewhere else or does it stay within your organization?
Yes, I mean, that's first of all a very good question, and also an essential one. It depends which license you use. If you use the business or the enterprise license, all the information that you use will be in your tenant. Of of course, it's in the cloud, but it will be in your tenant, and also the code will not be used as input for the model itself. The only thing where there is a difference is when you use the enterprise version, because there also your code base can be used for not really fine-tuning it, but giving more context for input, and that's the difference. But still, everything will be contained in your tenant. Hope that answers your question.
Great answer. Yeah, I know that privacy and security are always top of mind for when you're coding with AI. Some other recommendations that I have for folks who are wanting to secure their own code are to look at things like DSPM for AI from Microsoft, so Data Security Posture Management, right? That's going to give us a lot more visibility into what kinds of AI are being used and in what ways. There's also which AI, sometimes browser extensions or other sorts of methods of the ways that we are interacting with the data is another place where security comes into play, right? Because if you're using VS Code as a standalone app versus if you're doing it in the browser, you have very different experiences, and there's different security concerns there as well, just in terms of what's possible. So definitely thinking about how you secure your code or where you secure it, how it's how you use it is very important. And if that AI, having insight into your code is something that you're worried about, right? There are lots of ways, that you can customize your AI models or customize the way that you interact with your AI to ensure that the code itself, can be stored securely or used securely. For example, if you type in a security key or like your API key, what happens? It says, "Oh my God, this is an API key. Please delete this and don't use this anywhere," right? Those types of things end up being just as important when you think about code security and using AI as your traditional ways of thinking about it. So that's a great question from one of our listeners on LinkedIn.
I mean, that's a very important point. The data governance, all the data that you make available in whatever cloud service you use, I mean, it's something you really have to think about up front, because if you give it to such a model, then of course, and give access to those agents also to other members in your team, for example, then they have access to those files as well.
Exactly, right? That machine level versus human level access isn't always guaranteed, right? So if you are using, on behalf of authentication, or you are using machine identity and you're sharing that, or you're storing that somewhere that isn't, a vault, right? Then, you're going to have even more problems with the code security than you may be even worried about some AI taking that. Like, you got bigger problems, out there to worry about for sure. That's a great comment. Anything else that you guys wanted to share? Any last thoughts? I don't have any other questions from anyone else.
I just wanted to summarize. It was the whole presentation was both in an enterprise or work level and also private. So everything that we could summarize as our journey as a work for a real use cases that we have, so private ones was gathered, so everybody could have a bit of things that they want based on their day-to-day life. So I really hope that they enjoyed, and nothing from my side.
Yeah, thanks, Sahebeh. Thanks, Mona. And I also want to add that if you want to convince your company to go with GitHub Copilot, then also encourage them to do it. And we had a lot of folks within our company that were playing around with those tools for a long time, also on a private basis, and that really helps to push the boundaries and keep things going.
I think you guys both so much for being, leaning into this AI change. We have been at Capgemini just overwhelmed with how many different groups and organizations are asking the same kinds of questions. Like, what do I do? What are the basics? How do I even do this in a way that makes it feel possible? And so I'm really grateful that you guys were able to bring a real life use case and demonstrate to us that this is very much possible. So I guess I'll sign off for now and say thank you guys for your time. It was a pleasure as always, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day, listeners. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.